In this chapter, I'd like to show you how to use some image editing techniques to enhance the composition of your image. Now, at first you might think, well, image editing, how does that change your composition? Well, remember, one of the characteristics of a good composition we've talked about is separation of image elements. There's lots of images, such as this one here, where there's not a lot of tonal difference between the foreground mushroom and some of the background portions of the image. If we can enhance that separation, that does indeed enhance the composition of the image. So let me just take you through a couple of the tools. First, I'm going to take you through some Lightroom tools. And let's just make a virtual copy, and let's go to the Develop module and see what we have to work with. Whenever I work with image editing, I always like to use my histogram as my guide, and I can see there's some areas in this image that are blown out by these clipping areas that we see here and this little peak here. I'd love the mushroom to be a little bit lighter. I'd like for the background to be darker. Or there's some things that we can do to enhance this quick and easy, and there are. In this case, we could take the highlights of this image, and when we pull the highlights down, and if you watch the histogram, you'll see what happens is the lightest portions of this image, which are the blown out areas in the background, which really attract visual attention, and some of the grass, as you see here, a little bit of the grass and some of the background areas are darkened when we pull the highlights down. We can always also do this a little bit with the lights, where we can darken up the lighter portions of the image, which are the blown out areas here, and that does indeed darken up the background just a little bit without darkening the background of the mushroom too much. Well, if we go to the shadow areas in this image, we can darken up the background, but it also darkens up the mushroom, as you see. Same thing with the blacks, all right? So the tonal areas are just too different. So we can affect some change by just doing an overall image edit, but we really need to focus some of our attention on the background and some of it on the foreground. And the tool that we're going to use here is this adjustment brush. I'm clicking right here. Notice this adjustment brush in K in the upper right-hand corner. And we'll come down here and we're going to adjust the size of our brush by clicking on that size area, and then I'm just going to hit the up arrow to make it bigger. As you can see here, in the area between those two outer and inner circle is the feather area that we see. All right. And just to make things easy, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to turn on Show the Mask Overlay. And then I'm just going to draw my mask. And just with the big tool, with the big brush, I'm going to wash all the way around the edges as we see here. All right. To create our mask. And I'm not going to be quite as careful as I normally would be. And then we'll come back down here, and I'm going to make the mask brush a little bit smaller so we can come around our edges. So we can just do the edges. And I'm just trying to select the background by using a brush, an adjustment brush. And I can make that brush smaller. I'm just going to do it quickly here so you get the idea of what I'm trying to do. And what this does is it creates a quick on-screen virtual mask of that whole background area. And just note, if you've never used this before, if you want to edit this, you can click on Erase, and you can come in here and you can erase the edges and you can fine-tune them. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much about that here today. And you can apply several brushes. And then I'm going to turn off my Show the Mask Overlay, and then I'm going to come up here to Exposure, all right, and I'm just going to darken up the background as we see here. And notice that the mushroom is not being darkened, just the background. So I can overall darken that if I want to. And notice I can press the Y key to see my before and after. And, it works pretty darn well. And it doesn't take all that much time to do this. Notice those big, bright, blown-out areas we fixed first by just working on the tonality, and then I did an adjustment brush. And, by the way, you can create a second adjustment brush using this tool where we can, once again, just quickly, I'm going to go ahead and just select the mushroom itself. And I'm just using a medium-sized brush and just doing a quick and dirty selection. I would really zoom in and be much more careful. But just to show you the idea about how all this works. And if you've ever used a quick mask in Photoshop, that's kind of what this is creating, is a mask, and then we'll go ahead and turn that off. And then here, we'll come in and we can work on the highlights, and we can brighten this area. We can work on exposure. Notice I didn't do a particularly good job of getting that mask all on there. But you can get the idea of how you can overall adjust this image with brightness, with contrast, with exposure. And we do a Y up here, and you can see we've lightened up the mushroom. And on all of these adjustments like this, you want to be careful not to overdo it. A little bit goes a long way. And by doing this, we've really enhanced the composition of our image by creating better separation between the mushroom and the background by adjusting the overall brightness and contrast to those two areas.